live in East Sussex, Eric.
This robot looked pretty striking with its bright animalistic paint job and dual-acting lifter jaw. It came onto the scene in Series 3, nearly catching a lucky break against the favorite King Buxton, but not quite managing to seal the deal. Eric came back in Series 4 to a little bit more success, holding its own against some experienced robots and making it to the Heat final, but that was the last we saw of it on our TVs. So how does a bot with so little legacy make it to number 60 on this list? For that, you can thank the internet. Eric changed hands many times after Robot Wars ended, but it never got up and running until it was adopted in 2015 by Matt Smith and Team Riptide Robotics. Matt wanted to make sure that everyone who was anyone heard about Eric's triumphant return, and he knew just how to do it. A couple of the more whimsical Roboteers had gotten together on Facebook and created a group called Robot Wars Shunt Posting, a special place for all memes, puns, and inside jokes related to robot combat. Using just a little power of suggestion and brand repetition, Matt got all of Shunt Posting to cotton on to the idea of this obscure and humble robot being an omnipresent figure of worship, and before long, all of Shunt Posting was on board the Eric bandwagon, a mere mention of the four-letter name sending everyone into uncontrollable laughter. Eric returned to the live circuit in 2016, but sadly was no match for the modern robots, and ended up as Gabriel's punching bag. But that didn't tarnish its infamy one bit. Everyone carried right on spreading the Eric gospel. So while few people remember Eric's Robot Wars CV, to this day, almost everyone in the UK robot scene can name it on sight.
Eric though, backing underneath Small Talk! And Small Talk is immobilised, I believe.
From Tiverton in Devon, ROBOCHICKEN.
Enter ROBOCHICKEN. It's designed for the animal robot mold so specifically that it is commonly regarded as a novelty bot. Its design didn't help disprove this notion. It had a chicken's tail feathers for a flipper and a beak for an axe. Its first appearances in Series 4, where it served as cannon fodder for the destructive Razor and Pussycat, shows that producers saw ROBOCHICKEN as little more than a joke robot, and they were proven both right and wrong when ROBOCHICKEN put on a terrific show and was carved up into the most enjoyable displays that those All-Stars ever put on. Series 5 and 6 did little to redeem this most promising newcomer nominee, and even as late as Extreme 2 it was considered little more than a joke partner for Bulldog Breed, who won the tag team tournament pretty much single-handedly without really any help from its chicken friend. That's not to say that ROBOCHICKEN wasn't up to entertain. The henpecking of Barbaric Response's corpse is one of the funniest moments of the entire series. But it was Series 7 where a redesigned ROBOCHICKEN really showed that novelty and competence don't have to be mutually exclusive. With decisive KOs on Mechamog and Bod, ROBOCHICKEN reached its first heat final and gave Tough as Nails a run for its money in the first half of the battle. It was a peak at just the right time for the chicken, and most fans now see it for what it was, a novelty robot who is no slouch in battle. Its continued presence on the show from Series 4 to Series 7 allowed for it to establish its rightful place as one of the most striking designs on the show, serving as a familiar face amidst the out with the old and in with the new feeling that Series 7 would often invoke. It is for this reason that ROBOCHICKEN appeals to both the casual fan and the super fan.
And that has been a problem. 99 kilos and they do not have enough pneumatic power to separate. In comes ROBOCHICKEN. We waited and we waited to see the attack power of the chicken. And now we've seen it.
From Oxford, seeded number 16, KILLERHURTZ.
If there was ever an icon named by the show, it was KILLERHURTZ. Shortly after it debuted in Series 2, KILLERHURTZ placed second in the 1999 series of BattleBots. And well, this pedigree stayed with it even as it failed year after year to meet its potential in the UK side of the pond. There were always flashes of KILLERHURTZ's potential, a spiked axe that went through armor like a knife through butter, giving Chaos 2 a massive scare in the First World Championship, and a staggering 235 points to the Series 4 Pinball Warrior. But in 3 series, it's only mustered a single victory over the Structure Bubble. KILLERHURTZ's lack of success was a sad reflection on both Captain John Reed and the show itself, for the weapon was clearly powerful well before Dominator 2 even made its first appearance. Their pit dive in Series 3 against Cerberus remains one of the biggest sliding doors moments in Robot Wars, for a powerful axe would have brought a lot of colour to the show. A dubious 16th seeding and a lackluster final performance in Series 4 was mitigated somewhat by KILLERHURTZ's performance in the Northern Annihilator, managing to make the top 3 before succumbing to its fellow spiked axe. Shortly after, however, KILLERHURTZ would be retired in favour of a bladed axe, which would go on to smash the expectations we long had of KILLERHURTZ.
A lick of the old flame torch out there, and the bubble is punctured by KILLERHURTZ!
From Southampton, STEG-O-SAW-US.
Many bots have risen to glory from humble beginnings, from histories of failure and mediocrity, but few have risen quite as high as STEG-O-SAW-US did. Originally a reserve entry, STEG quickly made a huge impact in Robot Wars by virtue of the huge impact it made on its opponent's armour. Yes, as the crumpled shell of a napalm bore witness to, STEG was something different in Robot Wars. We had seen many bots able to chug along and push their opponents around, but we'd never seen a bot with the same kind of speed and force as STEG. Despite being little more than a sloped box with an almost decorative lifter tail, STEG could dominate its opponents. One has to imagine future champs Tornado were taking note. STEG proved themselves to be more than just another 45-degree angle on wheels in the semi-finals, by beating former champions Beast of Bodmin into submission. STEG's story would end in defeat after a valiant struggle against Hypnodisc in the grand final, and STEG-O-SAW-US would be retired. However, while Team Jurassic Park experimented with flippers and spinners, they never achieved the same success as they did back in Series 3, and ultimately it was their planar spot which was their most extraordinary.
The 6 blades of Henrik, perhaps. Oh! And in goes STEG-O-SAW-US with another crumpling run. Look at this. Oh, dear. Magnificent stuff from the STEG-O-SAW-US team.
From Hazelmere Surrey, SABRETOOTH.
When thinking of robots with 5 series under their belt, I would hardly think that SABRETOOTH is the first to come to mind, but sure enough, it would have appeared in 6 if not for its late withdrawal from Series 7. SABRETOOTH started its career in Series 5 to 6, but it was a classic series competitor in the same sense that Thermidor 2 and Crustacean were reboot competitors. Quick, forgettable appearances there to only add losses onto its record. The reboot was where SABRETOOTH really made a name for itself, starting with its participation in a vast amount of promotional content for Series 8, including teaser trailers and appearances on other TV shows, no doubt helped by the robot's sleek new design and Team Captain Gabriel's charismatic personality. Strange then that SABRETOOTH would suffer its 3rd consecutive round 1 defeat in this series, but it would cleverly set up the popular Pray for Gabe campaign ahead of Series 9, where SABRETOOTH really got started. Sporting a powerful new drum spinner as part of the robot's 5th complete redesign, SABRETOOTH finally collected its first televised win that Gabriel Stroud had waited 16 years for. Soon after, it earned a major statement win by tearing up veteran TERAHERTZ, and deservedly took its spot in the Heat final before being knocked out by Aftershock. This did seem to boost Gabe's confidence tenfold heading into the next series, as he presented an almost completely different persona in battles and interviews, with his 6th and final SABRETOOTH rivaling Rapid for expense, bringing 2 completed machines to the pits. Although SABRETOOTH suffered issues with its drum for most of its heat, the story ended positively with a good performance in the 10 Robot Rumble and the chance to fly the flag in the World Series. SABRETOOTH certainly had its ups and downs, but it's that historic high from Series 9 that we'll all remember, which sealed Gabe's machine as a reboot icon.
One improvement for SABRETOOTH, by the way, fully invertible. It's the best evolution to meet the last year. Oh, with terrible trouble there for TERAHERTZ.
From Somerset, Big Cheese.
By Series 3, we'd seen our share of lifters. In Series 2, robots like Mace, King Buxton and Panic Attack had all been using them to great effect. But when Roger Plant decided to go into the dairy industry, he wasn't out to build small cheese. The Big Cheese was a lifter the likes of which we'd never seen. Not only could that ponderous red arm lift enormous weights over, it could suspend them in mid-air. Few lifter pittings are as iconic as the Big Cheese's victory over Shrapnel. Roger Plant's machine was so well balanced that even an 80 kilo weight on the end of the lifting arm did not affect its manoeuvrability. The Big Cheese's campaign was as iconic as the best of the Series 3 semi-finalists, with a remarkable lifter clamp pitting against the speedy Anarachophobia, sealing its place in the heat final. Drawn against the future champion Chaos 2 and unable to self-right, in a series where all of Chaos 2's other opponents would simply accept defeat, the Big Cheese became the first robot to overturn Chaos 2, and even in defeat, hoisted a house robot clean in the air. The Big Cheese left a remarkable legacy, its final bout the only one ever officially named Battle of the Series. Its lifting prowess was matched only by house robot Sir Kill-A-Lot, and to this day, fans of the show will name the Big Cheese as a winner against robots half its age. The Big Cheese had only a short life and never reached the peaks it was capable of, but it left a legacy which were really big shoes to fill.
The great lifting ram of the Big Cheese, just there, sliding down once again, almost crushing Anarachophobia, and they did that well, and pushed Anarachophobia into the pit, and that's splendid control by the Big Cheese.
From Bretzel, Suicidal Tendencies.
How many robots in Robot Wars can say that they've gone out on a high? There are very few of them, and even fewer have a consistent a career as our next entry, Suicidal Tendencies. In 4 tournaments, Suicidal Tendencies reached the 3rd round 4 times, including 2 heat finals, and placing runner-up in a tag team tournament victory. And it was no slouch in those appearances either. Despite being the very lowest seed in history, it dominated its heat in Series 4 with the kind of energy rare even in the 10 to 20 seed range, and only fell short of semi-final status after a controversial heat final judge's decision. Its lifting forks were good enough to overturn Dominator 2 and KILLERHURTZ in the thick of battle, and its mini-axe was lightning quick for scoring aggression. It may have come as a surprise then that Suicidal Tendencies changed over to a vertical crushing claw, but Suicidal Tendencies managed to announce itself as a worthy wielder of a weapon previously trademarked by Razor. Taking out victories against Napalm, Sir Chromalot, Cerberus and Thermidor 2, Suicidal Tendencies was actively dominating Pussycat in the final of the Tag Team Terror, coming close to defeating the only robot capable of truly dethroning Razor. Series 5 saw Suicidal Tendencies all set for one more heat final, which would have set a record never broken in Robot Wars history, but sadly they retired after its final victory and never saw the battle with Razor in the heat final. But to go out on a victory is a right that few robots got, and Suicidal Tendencies was able to walk away from Robot Wars with its crushing head held high.
I'll eat shunt piece by piece if Suicidal Tendencies doesn't get this decision. It caused more damage to Rick all the way through, was the more aggressive machine. This has to go to Suicidal Tendencies. I have my spanner ready though, just in case.
From Hale in Cheshire, Crustacean.
An innovative design is always going to make you notable, whether you become successful, inspirational, both, or neither. Crustacean was an original robot the likes of which we'd never seen. Its early appearance signposted an era of new technologies, sleeker designs, and challenges to the established giants. Its defeat of Behemoth in the second round of Series 5 was one of the biggest statements over a Robot Wars All-Star, still on par with Hypnodisc, Razor, and Tornado. Crustacean's use of remote control gloves to open and close its pincers remains an impressive innovation even 15 years later, but the gloves were not the only distinguishing factor. They fit seamlessly into the robot's crab design, which only added to its appeal. Its sleek silver colour scheme and frenetic red eyes gave it a sophisticated appearance that most animal-based robots often did not have. It was for this reason that Crustacean won the Most Original Robot Award in Series 6, a recognition of its unique engineering and its brilliant design, while also being nominated for the Best Newcomer in Series 5. This praise was not unfounded. Its Series 5 campaign was a great debut tournament. Crustacean also chalked up strong performances on the international front. It did South Africa proud in the Extreme 2's Commonwealth Carnage and the Third World Championship, and became a semi-finalist in its own right while entering the second series of Dutch Robot Wars. Despite a poor showing in its return in Series 9, its classic series run means it has a very secure place as a robot who never quite reached the highest heights, but remained an important robot nonetheless.
Trying to self-right Bearmouth using the axe to do so. They won't have a chance. They're in the pit. What a famous victory for Crustacean.
Cease. From Gateshead, TR2.
At first glance, it might be difficult to see what exactly makes TR2 an iconic machine. It didn't have the most original or unique design out there, and it certainly wasn't the most powerful flipper to ever grace the Warzone. So what sets it aside from the rest and cements it on this list? It's simple really, its ability to fight. TR2 is obviously a robot built with one thing in mind, to win fights, and that's exactly what it does best. Its design may be simple, but it's very effective. Its flipper was the perfect size to scoop up any opposition and flip them with ease. It could take control of battles without breaking a sweat, and whilst it was by no means the most destructive machine out there, it had no problems outclassing robots that were. All you need to do is see how well it handled Series 9 champions Carbide, and you will understand how good TR2 really was. TR2 had no problem taking the battle to Carbide and was able to withstand the punishment it dealt, even breaking Carbide's weapon in the process. After this, it had no problem dominating it, flipping it continuously, and taking an easy judge's decision victory. And may I remind you that the person in control of this machine was Alex Brown, who was 15 years old at this point and able to outdrive many Roboteers old enough to be his father. And all you have to do to back up these claims is look at its win-loss record in Series 8. 8 wins and 1 loss, making it the most successful robot in Series 8 as far as wins are concerned. This also means of the 6 Series 8 Grand Finalists, TR2 was the only one to win all of its heat battles. TR2 was a modern legend that sadly never had the chance to reach its status due to not being selected to compete in Series 9. But with all these previously stated facts, it fits comfortably on this list.
A slam against the arena wall from TR2. Good contest this. 2 very good robots. Carbide under pressure. Carbide under pressure. TR2 doing all the work. Carbide are retreating fast.
From Leeds, Big Nipper.
For such a successful and widely respected machine, it's quite funny to think that Big Nipper was only on the show in fits and spurts. Despite Razor giving it a rough introduction to the wars, the first version of Big Nipper was a distant ancestor to the bot that would go on to success. By the time the team successfully made use of a Lifter Crusher setup that we all know and love, the show was in its final Classic Wars series. Despite a tight heat final loss to the Grim Reaper, we ultimately only got a small taste of what was to follow for Big Nipper's updated design. In the off years, Big Nipper continued to be refined and joined a small club of UK champions in the 2007 Championship, before gaining entry to an even smaller club of being a 2-time UK champion in 2012. By the time the reboot rolled around in 2016, Big Nipper was being tipped to go on a deep run. Unfortunately though, things didn't exactly go to plan. The team tried to give Big Nipper some modern day versatility by adding a spinning disc, but a combination of both this weapon and its usually trusty claws didn't set the world alight in Series 8, as Big Nipper was largely dominated by TR2 and Dantum Kier. A soft victory against the war-weary King Bee remix was all Big Nipper had to show for. And just like that, it looked like Big Nipper's Robot Wars career may have been done for, as it was an unselected reserve for Series 9. However, just as it looked like Big Nipper may have used up its prime years during the show's hiatus, it returned with one big bang in the final series of the show. Big Nipper finally gave us what we were waiting many a year to see, as it showed the TV screens the high standards this machine could reach at its best. I mean, if anything, it hitting the opponent into the ceiling was a standard that no machine can state they can reach, but that's exactly what Big Nipper broke out on us in its redemption round fight against Crackers and Smash. Though it could still not reach Heat Final status after a defeat to Eruption, Big Nipper once again proved that its vertical spinner was a mean piece of kit, sensationally knocking out Aftershock in a spinner-on-spinner battle for the ages. This, coupled with being part of the UK team for the World Series, was a nice casual redemption arc for such a cherished machine on the UK circuit. Still painted to this day with the Union Jack left from that appearance, Big Nipper may have been recently officially retired, but the way it went out was with some big credit. A machine with durability, a machine with versatility, a machine admired by many a fan and roboteer for its high-level engineering, Big Nipper was a gem, a 2-time UK champion, and deservedly part of our list.
Big Nipper doing over there? Ramping up to... Oh, what a run it was and what a hit!
You turned it off, did you?
Well done.
It was already off first, was it?
Superb hit. Wow, that's out.
That's one of the biggest flips we've ever seen in Robot Wars. Big Nipper showing they're a force to be reckoned with, and Smash is ejected out of that battle. Goodbye.